welcome here. Thank you so much. I'm delighted and excited to be here sharing my White House experience with you. Now, I'm not a public speaker, just someone who had the most incredible experience. So if you see me reading and glancing at my notes, it's because I don't want to leave out a single detail. I want to relive this experience as accurately as I can. Excuse me. My time in Washington covered a 6-day period, so there is much to tell. It was the only 6 days I had to make every moment count, to relish each hour as if there would never be another chance to be invited back. Truly a thrill of a lifetime. I can't believe it was November of 2011 since I decorated the White House, but the birth of the experience started in December of 2010. You see, every year I enjoyed watching the television specials of Christmas at the White House. The reason being, I had always wanted to be a volunteer and help decorate for the holidays, but didn't know how to go about it. While I was watching HGTV's special, Christmas special, the host Genevieve Gorder asked a young man how he was chosen as a White House volunteer, and he simply said he wrote a letter. When I heard that was all you had to do, I thought I would give it a try. All I had to lose was the cost of a stamp, and I thought if he could write a letter, I could write one too. So in June of 2011, I wrote my letter and addressed it to Mrs. Obama. In it, I wrote that my father, don't open it yet, that my father sold Christmas trees, a little anticipation here, sold Christmas trees in New York City when we were children. And each year he would bring home the cream of the crop, the tall Douglas firs, the fragrant Scotch pines, and the beautiful Norwegian spruce trees. I have to admit that our family had the best Christmas tree in the neighborhood. Being on the creative side, I really enjoyed decorating the tree, symmetrically placing each of my mother's old-fashioned glass ornaments just so. I remember one ornament had a price of 10 cents on it. Those were the days. My letter went on to say that my father was a patriotic Marine who fought in Iwo Jima and received the Purple Heart. And I ended my letter by saying, wouldn't my father be proud to know that all those years of decorating our family Christmas trees led to decorating the grandest trees at the White House? 3 months later, in early September, I received a letter from Jeremy Bernard, Mrs. Obama's social secretary. Hoping for good news, I fumbled while I was opening it. It was a letter thanking me for my interest and had asked me to go online to fill out the application, which included all my volunteer work. Photos of my work were optional, but I included the winter scene that I had created and a gingerbread-themed red and white tree I had created the year before. I immediately sat down at my computer to submit my application and noticed that there were only 2 days before the deadline date. When I finished and clicked send, I saw a response on the screen saying, processing error, try again later. Oh. In my frustration, I tried to submit the application at least 20 times and received the same response. The submission deadline was only 2 days away, and I knew that if the application didn't go through, I would be too late, and I was afraid of missing this wonderful opportunity. Needless to say, that was an anxiety-filled Labor Day weekend. Mr. Bernard's letter indicated that if I had any questions, to feel free and contact the White House. So waiting anxiously till the holiday was over, first thing Tuesday morning, I telephoned the White House to explain the web error. I thought, I'm really calling the White House. Imagine that. The intern in the social office was very apologetic and told me that they were aware of the web error and the deadline was being extended. She told me to send my application to an alternate email address. Phew, that was a relief. A few weeks later, my son and his wife came over for dinner. I thought, before I get involved with setting the table and all the duties of dinner, I'd take a quick look at my emails. So I started to scroll down and saw an email from the social secretary's office. Oh my God! I was afraid to click on it because I thought it would be a rejection letter. I finally got the courage and clicked on it, and it said, Congratulations! You have been conditionally accepted as a 2011 White House volunteer. Conditionally meaning a background check was still to come. And it went on to say that my decorating skills and creative talent would contribute to making the holiday season beautiful for the 85,000 visitors that were expected. I remember screaming so loud that I thought the neighbors had heard me. My son came running into the computer room. He thought I was having a heart attack. In that email, I learned that I would be in Washington for 6 days, ending with a volunteer reception and a possible opportunity to meet the First Lady. I had to report on the Friday after Thanksgiving by 7 a.m. Hotel suggestions were given, and I booked my room for the week. Hotel accommodations were not paid by the White House, nor was transportation or dinner. The total cost of my entire experience was about $1,000. I had to buy some new clothes, of course, but who cared? It was going to be a priceless experience. After Thanksgiving dinner, my husband drove me to Islington to board the 9:30 train to D.C. It was a time of exhaustion and sleep deprivation because I was up the previous night catering breakfast for the celebrities in the Macy's parade and had to be in Central Park by 5 a.m. I arrived at Union Station at 1 a.m. and checked into the hotel at 1:30. Guess my adrenaline kept me awake because I couldn't sleep. So at 7 a.m. I was to report to the conference room to meet all my fellow volunteers. There were 136 of us. We were given red holiday aprons, I lost 7 pounds, so maybe it looks a little better. So it must look a little better. Okay, we also received badges, red, gold, or green, and name tags, and were divided into groups. The colored badges indicated what lunch break we would be assigned to and what area we would be working in at the White House. Now, the first 2 days, we all worked at a warehouse facility about 20 minutes outside Washington, making ornaments for the White House trees. I was adding wires to the ornaments, counting them, boxing them, and labeling where each box would be delivered to. I also worked on the handmade yellow ribbon decorations. Turn your first page, okay? Designated for the Blue Room military tree, which was the largest tree in the White House. These decorations were patches or badges from various branches of the military. I assigned myself as quality control because I wanted each ornament to be perfect. There was a catered lunch prepared for us and delivered to the warehouse both days. Soup, sandwiches, and dessert. We chatted as we worked on these meaningful ornaments. I met ladies from all over the country. There were 2 young girls who traveled all the way from Hawaii. I also met ladies who had lost their husbands and sons in Iraq and Afghanistan, and listened to their heartbreaking stories and the tragedies and sadness they had to endure. The 3rd day was really exciting because it was our first day at the White House. Breakfast was waiting for us. Just donuts and coffee, but they tasted 10 times more delicious because we were overlooking the Jackie Kennedy Garden. A hot lunch was prepared each day and a variety of desserts like cheesecake and ice cream. I gained 5 pounds when I returned home. I just had to have that cheesecake every day. It was addictive. And White House desserts are legendary. We were given a tour of the White House and assigned rooms to decorate. All the decorations we had prepared at the warehouse were on the truck waiting for us to unload. We lined up outside the diplomatic reception room and carried these boxes to their designated rooms. I remember looking up from the entrance and seeing the balcony of the first family's private residence. I would have loved to take a picture, but we were asked not to take pictures until the last day of decorating. I was assigned to the China Room, located in the Lower Cross Hall. The China Room is the room where several pieces of presidential china from each administration are kept on display. My team and I could not get into the room because the gingerbread house was being assembled there. Every year, the pastry chefs create a replica of the White House made of gingerbread, and the assembly takes place in the China Room because the China Room is adjacent to the hallway leading to the kitchen. So my team and I were able to float and work in other rooms until our room became available. I worked in the library and the Vermeer Room, which is the First Lady's sitting room. I also worked in the Grand Foyer. As a caterer, I was very curious to see what the kitchen looked like, and I asked one of the coordinators if I could take a peek, and she escorted me in. I was surprised to see that the kitchen was not huge at all. It was very compact. The coordinator from the agency asked if I wanted to see the floral design room as well. And of course my response was yes. Wasn't I lucky to have asked just the right person? Turn the page. I took pictures of Laura Dowling, the head of floral design at the White House, and her staff. I also snapped a picture of a pom-pom replica of Bo, the first family's dog, that the staff was working on. Bo was a black and white Portuguese water dog. Laura Dowling is pictured far right. She had been working on the famous cranberry arrangement that is placed in the red room each year. The kitchen and the floral design room were not on the tour, but I felt so privileged to have been the only volunteer to have seen them. Turn the page. Now the work began. I entered the vermeil room and asked if anyone needed help. The other ladies welcomed me, and I began working on the 2 dainty trees that were set on 2 adjacent tables. It seemed that they would just not stay straight, but with the help from the White House carpenter, we were off and running to get that room finished. The room was a pale yellow, and gold vermeil serving pieces were on display. The tree was decorated in silver and gold shimmering metallic colors. A tiny bow ornament with a red ribbon was placed on the tree as a finishing touch. The designers wanted to choose from several toppers for those 2 tabletop trees. So I made a poofy gold lame bow, which you can see in the picture, and a small minimalistic magnolia leaf topper with sprigs of greens for the designers to choose from. Turn the page. The dainty magnolia topper that I had assembled was their choice, and you can see a volunteer placing it on the tree. What a feeling to know that my topper adorned the trees in the vermeil room. You can also see the portrait of Jackie Kennedy. Exciting things were happening. Eating lunch in the state dining room every day was a thrill. Turn the page. Looking up to see President Lincoln's portrait above the fireplace gave me goosebumps. I remember thinking, am I really here? Turn the page. Seeing Bo, the first family's dog, was unexpected walking down the lower cross hall with his trainer. I even got to pet him as he passed. You would not believe the exercise Bo gets walking around the White House on a daily basis. The photo's a little blurry because I wasn't expecting him. Look at the felt replica on the right. It took 25 yards of felt to create him. And guess what? I even caught a glimpse of the president and his daughter coming out of the presidential elevator and walking down the hall dressed very casually. Even though the Secret Service men had asked us to clear the hall, I peeked out of the China room just at the right time and saw Malia and the president. Oh my God. How exciting, I thought. I just saw the president of the United States and his daughter. Now the 4th day was approaching and we were still not able to start decorating in the China room. My team was starting to get a little stressed because time was ticking and we could not have a lot of time to finish. Turn the page. You can see the White House pastry chef working on the gingerbread house in the China room. Finally, the 400-pound gingerbread house had been brought up to the state dining room and my team was able to get started. Keep in mind that the volunteers that were decorating in all the other rooms were nearing completion except my team. We were just starting, so we had to complete that room in record time. Turn the page. When the door was opened, I was amazed at all the beautiful china from all the administrations. I was especially impressed with George Washington's blue Ridgewood china. It really came to life when I saw how visibly worn it looked. Bill Clinton's gold charger with a replica of the White House centered in the plate was outstanding. Turn the page. And Lincoln's maroon bordered dinnerware, adorned with the presidential eagle seal, was magnificent. Time was of the essence with just a day and a half to complete the room. We were asked to be creative, and we were. Turn the page. My team worked on the tree, and I worked on the fireplace mantle. We were under a great deal of pressure. Just then, the HGTV cameras came in and interviewed me. I told them we had just started to decorate, so we had to put the pedal to the metal to complete the room on time. When the room was complete, the White House design team came in, and they didn't want to change a thing. That was a proud moment. We all worked very hard. Our day began at 7 a.m. and finished about 4 p.m. every day. We had a job to do, and we all did our part to make the White House look exquisite. I remember an interview that aired with Barbara Walters with the President and Mrs. Obama soon after we completed decorating. Barbara Walters had said she had never seen the White House look so beautiful. The last day had arrived. It was the day of the volunteer reception. You can see, turn the page, the invitation we received from Mrs. Obama. The original is in my scrapbook, which you are all invited to see. As I walked in with my daughter-in-law, who was my guest, carolers welcomed us with holiday hymns. The first tree we saw was the Gold Star tree. Turn the page. This tree paid tribute to all the fallen soldiers. Family members were invited to write messages on ceramic gold stars to their departed loved ones. It was truly a heroic tree. I saw the framed purple hearts hanging from the branches, and it reminded me of my father's Purple Heart that he received from being blown out of a foxhole in World War II. I was excited to show my daughter-in-law Diana all the rooms I had taken part in, and then we walked upstairs to the grand foyer, which is the hallway that leads to the East Room, the State Dining Room, and the Blue Room. Turn the page. The food was set up in both the State Dining Room and the East Room with carving stations and a champagne bar. And there was a dessert table with various desserts and cut-out Christmas cookies. Of course, they had a cookie of the other family member, Bo. They were so delicious and not even too sweet. Turn the page. We were able to walk throughout the White House and sit on the antique furniture with our plates in our hands. We sat in the green room on the striped chair, the exact chair that the President and Mrs. Obama sat on during Barbara Walters' interview. We were taken in all the beauty of what all the talented volunteers had created. No rooms were roped off, and we were able to go from one room to the next, enjoying every minute of this surreal experience. An announcement came over the loudspeaker that Mrs. Obama was about to speak. Turn the page. I tried to get as close as possible to maybe get a chance to shake her hand. She did shake as many hands as she could, but just as I made my way through the hundreds of people, she turned and said, "Party hard, everyone, bye." Oh well, can't have it all. The reception flew by in a flash. It started at 4 p.m. and ended at 6 p.m. This was the first year that guests were allowed, so there must have been about 600 people at the reception. I thought the reception was just going to be for the volunteer decorators, but it also included Mrs. Obama's correspondence. Her correspondents are all the volunteers who read and open her mail. Time was ticking, and the reception was brief. It amazed me how the White House ushers had directed the crowd out the door in a very discreet way. They started closing the door in the State Dining Room. And then when the crowd moved into the Red Room, they closed the door. And then the crowd moved into the Blue Room. And then they closed the door. And then the Green Room. And the door finally closed. And then the East Room until there was nowhere else to go but out. Very clever but effective. Yes, that's called crowd control. Turn the page. Shine, Give, and Share was the theme for the holiday at the White House. And this was Mrs. Obama's program right here, if anybody would like to look at it later. Okay. It represented everyone's ability to make a difference in our world through service to one another. Mrs. Obama's message, written in her program, read, "May the sparkling brilliance of the People's House remind us to reflect the light and joy of the season and our service to each other." I came away from this experience wanting to make a small difference. When I came home, I gathered a few ladies who were interested in my efforts and formed a group. We call ourselves Ladies Who Care for Our Troops. Since we began in April 2012, we have sent over 300 packages to our brave men and women in Afghanistan so far. I just want to show you this. Here's a picture of the troops holding up our packages. It's a good feeling. It's really a good feeling. With your help, you too can shine, give, and share and make a difference. We ship much needed items to the troops once a month. They really need toiletries, so whatever you can donate in the future would be greatly appreciated. This plaque was sent to me by the 7th Engineer Battalion, thanking us for our selfless volunteer service. I was so touched when I received it. Turn the page, and you can see the completed library with bow made out of trash bags and a button bow placed in the Red Room. I brought along the television Christmas special that was sent to me by HGTV. Everyone they interviewed received a copy. Now, I'm going to give out some paper. And now when we're watching the video, every time you see me in the video, make a little tick mark on your paper. At the end of the video, count how many times you see me. The one who guesses correctly will win a prize. And by the way, I'll be quizzing you after the video. I have 9 questions and prizes, so watch carefully. And there is something else. I was invited back in 2013, and only 78 volunteers were chosen nationwide. And I had the opportunity to finally shake Mrs. Obama's hand and speak to her. And that was the highlight of my 2013 experience. Now, I brought some items that I purchased from the White House gift shop, and it's the only place where you can see the words executive residence. This was a sweatshirt, and this is an apron, because if you go to other gift shops, they'll just say the White House. So if you wear this, they know that you were inside the warehouse, or White House. So I want to thank everybody for this wonderful opportunity to share my privileged experience. I felt so lucky to have been chosen. Some women have been trying for years. I was lucky to be chosen the first time that I wrote my letter. Thousands of people apply every year, so why don't you give it a try? Now there's just one quick story I want to share with you. I had gone to a wedding in September of 2013, and the bride worked for the Knot Bridal magazine. She was the art director. When she got married, in back of her cake, as a backdrop, were these big white paper flowers that an artist had made. So it was quite impressive. Now, in 2013, I'm in the warehouse working on ornaments, and I happened to see these big white flowers. And so I asked the designer, where did these flowers come from? And he said, well, it was a designer in New York. Now, of course, the Knot is located in New York City, and I'm thinking, maybe, could they be the same flowers? So I emailed my friend and asked her if this designer was the same designer who did her flowers. It turned out that they were. On the back of the flowers, which I hadn't seen, said, Megan and Greg, 2013. So my friend's flowers wound up at the White House. And they were sprayed gold, which is that right there. Oh. Isn't that an amazing story?
Wow.
That was great. That's great. So now we're ready for the video, so pay attention. I've got prizes, and I'll be asking a few questions. So now, we're going to play.